If you use the SiteCrafter framework for Divi, you will never ever again need to adjust your font sizes as you're designing your websites with Divi. This also includes all your mobile views. All that is already done for you in the framework. Let me show you how it works. So over here we have your standard text that you have when you set up Divi for the first time. So once you install SiteCrafter, all you need to do is to select and then come over here to the top right, go into advanced, CSS ID and classes, and then the class you need to add is called SK. Now this font you're looking at right now is fully responsive on all screen sizes. I mean like all screen sizes. Now let me show you what this looks like. So I'm going to now do a quick preview and show you how amazing this is. This is a time saver. Okay, so now I'm just going to reduce the size of my screen, and I'm sure you can see slowly that my heading texts and my paragraph text is getting smaller and smaller, and everything is looking very consistent. Okay, so now do you see how amazing that is? This is going to save you so much time as you're designing your websites, because everything has already been calculated for you using a mathematical formula. Now, for those of you who are developers, the system is using a clamp system. Okay, so let's move on to the next thing. The text sizes that I'm talking about does not only apply on just the paragraph text. This also applies throughout all your headings and also your modules. So for example, over here, I have my modules. So I'm going to go ahead and select this blurb. And same thing, all I have to do is to come over here, CSS ID and classes, and then all I have to do is to enter SK. Now, you may be thinking, well, I think the heading is a bit too big. Well, the adjustment is very subtle. You can just come over here to design, heading 10, and you can change that to H6 if you wanted to, but I think H5 is fine. Same thing applies to this call to action. You just click on this gear icon, you come over here and enter SK. Again, if your text is way too big, you can just come over here to design, title text, change that to heading 3, and pretty much you have not gone into the builder itself to adjust any text sizes. Now, this is going to save you a lot of time as you're designing your website. And most importantly, as you know, websites need to be accessible. So this font here, or this text, is definitely going to pass the accessibility test, which is also very important. In fact, in some companies that you may work with and you want to design websites for them, accessibility is key. So if you go in and design your websites where it's not fluid and responsive, that's a fail. I mean, once it fails, you've just wasted your time trying to design a website which is not even accessible. Okay, now let's move on. Now, with this text alone, there's also other things that you find which are really, really cool. So I've entered a text paragraph here, and this is just normal text, as you can see. Now, let's say you want to add some notices or warnings on your website. Again, all you have to do is to come over here to CSS ID and classes. And this one here is a notice, for example. Oops. And you notice that, it's all well designed for you. If it's a warning that you want to add to your site, all you have to do is to type in warning, and the class comes up, and pretty much it's all designed for you. Really amazing. You may be wondering, well, where am I getting all these classes from? Now, when you install the framework, you're also going to get this guide. Okay, this is the framework guide, and it has a ton of features. Now, if you take a look here, I was just talking about the fonts. Here is our fluid. If you just type in SK, it pretty much changes everything and makes it fully responsive. We also have a lowercase, text align, justify, and so on. We also have what is known as general fluid text. Now, if you just want to add texts, across your whole website, you can just enter it this way, like extra small, small, medium, and so on. Now, if you continue on, you're going to notice that a moment ago, I was showing you the notices. So there's the notice, there's the warning, there's the error, there's also success. So these are the sort of things that you can add across the whole website. Now, it has a ton of features. We also have Flexbox, transparency, shadows, radius, and so on. But the next important thing that I want to talk to you about is the spacing. Now, spacing is very important in web design. A lot of the times you're going to see amateurish websites because they don't have spacing or a spacing scale applied to their design work. Now, let me show you what I mean. I'm going to scroll down here. I've just entered a bunch of text over here. Now, I know I've gone through and I've added everything already, but let me just show you how this would work. So the rules of spacing are you need to space things that relate to each other with equal spacing. So let's start doing that. So I know that these three paragraphs here, or these three bunches of text, are going to need the same spacing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off with the first one here, go to Advanced, CSS ID and Classes, and I'm going to say margin top. It's margin dash top, and then this is going to be small. Now you notice that, there was a slight change there. Now let's move on to the next one. Again, I'm going to add margin top small. Again, you notice that there was a bit of a space there that happened. Now we're on the button. So again, I'm going to say Advanced, CSS ID and Classes. And then I'm also going to do the margin top. And again, this is going to be small. Now with this, it's also, let me see. Okay, the spelling was wrong. All right, so now we have equal spacing. But for this image here, because it doesn't relate to all the information on top, I want to add the margin spacing as medium. So I'm going to go ahead and say margin top. And for this one here, it's going to be medium. Okay. Now, as I'm looking at this, it's not really a big difference. So I can say large or even extra large. You see that? So this now looks really, really nice and it's well spaced out together. But if you, of course, want to change this, you can always go in at any point and perhaps maybe you want to change this from margin top small to medium, for example, or even large. You can just do that. And just by doing that, you have added your spacing. Now, while you're looking at this, you may be thinking, well, okay, how does this spacing look like when it's in smaller devices? Now, I'm going to tell you something that's very fascinating. This space that I've added across these modules is also responsive. It's not just spaces, okay? It's responsive. It's going to look great on all devices. And you don't even have to go in and adjust this on every single screen size. Now, let me show you that. I'm now going to go ahead and click on Save. And we are going to do another preview. In fact, we have a preview window here, don't we? Yes. I'm going to refresh this and let's take a look at what has happened here. So this is my text. And now I'm going to reduce the size. Now look at that. I know it's at the bottom, but everything just looks really nice. Look at that. The spacing is fine. You don't have to go in and make any crazy adjustments on the spacing. Now, of course, this is demo purposes. This spacing here is a bit too much. I would rather go in and make it medium. So for example, I can just always go back here and say, okay, let me go in and change it from large to medium. Now you may be thinking, well, what's the advantage really of doing it this way? Why not go into the actual module and do all those changes? Now, as you can imagine, if you're going to come back to this website, let's say a few months later, the client wants to change a few things on the website, you would have to go in and make these changes one by one. Like for example, for my spacing, I would need to come into this one, for example. I'll go into design, spacing, and then I'll have to enter it manually. You see that? Now, when I start entering it manually here, so let's say my margin here is, let's say 20 pixels. Right? Now with this 20 pixels, I also need to adjust it over here as well. Otherwise, it's just going to remain massive. So this is why this way of designing your website using the framework is much, much better. Okay, now there's also another important feature that the framework has, and that is your section spacing. Okay, now let me show you what I mean. Every section is different as you're designing your website. So this one here would be ideally my main hero section. So what you'd need to do is to come over here to make sure that your padding on your section is great. You'd come over here to your section settings, go to Advanced, CSS ID and Classes, and then we're going to say hero section. Now notice what happens now. It has added my padding, and this again is fully responsive. Okay, so for this one here, definitely this is not our hero, so we just want to add normal padding. So I'm going to come over here and say large section. Do you see that? Now this one here is set to large section, and let's say for this one here, I'm going to set this to small section. I'm going to come over here to classes, and instead of saying hero, I'm going to set this to small. Now let's save and let's do a quick preview. In fact, this time around, I should be able to just drag these and have them in the right order. So this section here on the bottom needs to come all the way on the top like that. So you can see now it's on the top, and maybe this one here needs to come just below. Okay, great. Now I'm gonna hit save. Let's do a quick preview so you can see the different sizes. All right, so this is now our main hero section, and as you can see here, it's clean, it's neat, and it looks great to the eye because the spacing is just right and everything is responsive. I mean, look at that. Now, to prove to you that the spacing is responsive, I'm now going to drag again my screen here, and you're going to notice that everything gets small. And this has definitely reduced. And when you scroll through this, everything looks really, really nice. Now, this also looks great on mobile devices, as you can see. Now, if you were to do this manually, what I've just shown you here would take you hours, to do, because now your fonts are all set once and for all. You don't even need to go in and do anything else. It's all done for you and it looks great. So the next features I want to talk about are features which are extras. So let's say, for example, you want to go in and use, the latest, let's say Flexbox. You would just come over here and let's say I want to add a blurb. I could just go in and enter it here like that. And I'm going to add 3 of these like that. And then I'm going to go back to my column here and go to advanced, CSS ID and classes. And then all I have to type in here is Flexbox. And now you can see they're all laid out in a nice, neat way. And the way I've laid them out, they're also responsive. So let's say I click on this little arrow here. You can see everything is looking great. And this is just by using one class, which is Flexbox. Now look at that. Now I know this is basic Flexbox, but I mean, if you are developing your websites for your clients, this is a quick way of just getting things done as you're designing your website. Now I know some of you may be saying, well, why can't I just use presets? Now, yes, presets are fantastic, but they are also limited. So let me just add a bunch of text here so you can see what I mean. So let's say I wanted to add more text on my site. I'm going to come over here and let's add a text module. Right, so as you can see here, this is not responsive. It doesn't have my class on it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and select it, come over here, CSS ID and classes, and then I'm going to add SK. Right, now it is fully responsive and everything is good. If you wanted now to start designing your complete website with this size, this is where you can go in now and add your preset. So I'm going to come over here and say new preset from current styles. Okay, and I'm going to come on the bottom here and say, in fact, I need to give this preset a name. So let's call this main text, and then I'm going to set this as a default and then save preset. Okay, so now I've introduced a preset to my design system. If I'm now going to go in and add a bunch of text, so again, let's add our text module. You're going to notice now that it has my size, and across the whole website, we're going to have a size which is consistent. Now, this alone is going to save you a lot of time. I mean, it's unbelievable how much time you'll save using this. I mean, one of the reasons why I used to get very frustrated when designing websites was the going in and entering all these sizes one by one. Sometimes you're not even sure whether to use EM, REMs, or pixels. And you see, it just takes away all that stress of trying to learn when to use pixels, when to use M's, when to use REMs, and so on. So now that I've selected this, it is very, very easy to do. I can go in here. I can set this as a heading if I wanted to. So let's say this is heading 3. Everything is set for you. You don't even need to go in and do anything else. Now, let's say this particular paragraph here is a paragraph that you want to use across, your site. As you know, you cannot use this because the paragraph is just way too long. It's not very, very good for usability. It's not very good for people that come to your website to read information in your site because the line is just way too long. The recommended size is 70 characters or 65 to 70 characters. So I have a class here that is designed for that. And if I click on this gear icon and come over here to advanced, CSS ID and classes, I can now set this to SK content. Now, do you see that it has reduced? Now, this is the optimal size for anyone that wants to read information on your website in a much, much easier way. It's easier on the eye. And I'm sure you can agree with me that when you look at this, in fact, let me add a paragraph here. A margin. So I'm going to say margin top, and I'm going to set this to medium so we can see what is happening here. So if we take a look at these two, automatically we can see that This one here is much easier to read. So what you need to do now when you purchase SiteCrafter is to head over to the framework, and this is where you want to read and see what else you can play around with. And by the way, I am going to be doing a lot of tutorials SiteCrafter here, so just keep an eye on the channel. All right, so let me show you something else you can do here. Let's say you want to add a border, some padding around this. What you can do is you can just go, okay, let's use the top one here. You can just go over here to advanced, CSS ID and classes, and I'm going to say padding large. Now, did you see what happened? My SK has gone, so I just need to enter it back here like that. So now I have padding large. I know right now you can't see it because we have a gray background, but if I want to now add a color to my background, I can just come over here and let's add white as my background. Now, do you see how the padding was applied and it is the same size all across? This is really, really easy to do. Next, if I wanted to add some rounded corners, I would go in to advanced, and then I'm going to say radius dash medium. I know you can't really see it. Let's change the background. So I'm going to come back over here and make it a bit darker. Now, do you see that we have some rounded corners there? In fact, why not just change it to large? Right, let's change this to large so you can really see it. Okay, so you can see now that across my whole website, I can set specific radius sizes across the whole website. Now, why is this important? It's important to add it as a class because let's say 2 months later, Susan comes and says, you know what? I don't like the radius size. Now, you can imagine that you've probably applied this on each and every module across the whole website. You would need to go in and undo it over here because this is where you'd normally come and adjust it. So you would need to go to every border radius and reduce it or adjust it on every single item that has that radius size. But if you're using a standard way of doing this, which is using the framework, you can just go in and say, okay, Susan, what radius do you need? And then she would probably say, okay, make it slightly smaller or make it slightly bigger. Okay, so if it's slightly smaller, you can just say, okay, let's go with medium. Okay, so now that I've entered medium, then you can ask and say, okay, is that okay? Yes, that's fine. Now, this radius medium, right, pretty much across the whole website can be adjusted this way. Now, I want to talk about something that's even more important, and this is for those of you now who are developers or people that understand CSS. So with this all set now, what you can do to make adjustments to these classes that are already here is to then head over now to dashboard. I'm going to say leave, and I'm going to come over here to Divi, or in fact, you can even go to appearance, customize. Right, so what you can do now is to take a look at our CSS classes. Now, this is where everything is. Okay, if at any point you may want to change something here, this is where you would come and make your actual changes. So you can see here our heading 1, it has clamp, it has our line height and H2 and so on. Now this is all your CSS classes. So this is where you would come and make the changes. But chances are you won't need to come in and do any of these changes. So when it comes to designing websites with Divi, this is how SiteCrafter makes the whole design process much easier. It will save you a lot of time. And as you can see, I think the biggest takeaway here is your fonts. Just look at what we have here. I did not go in and set my heading 1, heading 2, heading 3, or my paragraph text. I did not even need to go in and make any adjustments on the screen sizes. No, everything is all done for you. So this framework is ideal if, number one, you want to save time while you're designing your websites, and also if you're a freelancer or an agency, this is perfect for you. In fact, even for your own business website, if you're able to design a website that looks aesthetic, because when you make a website, what makes it look great and amazing is the spacing, the colors, and other factors like the type of font itself and so on. And this is all inbuilt. Next, I want to show you also something that really saves you a lot of time when you install SiteCrafter. Now, if we come over here, you're going to notice that if you install this for the first time, you're going to have a footer designed for you already out of the box. Okay, again, all you need to do is to come in and change the links, and also where this, the color, the size is controlled by SiteCrafter, but I haven't added it here by the way, because obviously if you're installing this, you need to add it yourself. Okay, what else comes with SiteCrafter? Well, you're going to be amazed. If I come over here to blog, notice that it has my blog page designed for me ahead of time. It's designed for me. And if I come over here and let's say I want to choose this one here, if I click on it, this blog page is also designed for me ahead of time, saving you hours and hours of just putting together these templates. Look at this. If I scroll down, you can see we have a previous post here, and you can show everything just looks consistent across the whole website. So you have your buttons here for previous and next, and our text here, again, it follows that rule. There's 70 characters, which is ideal for a user when they come onto your website. On the bottom here, we also have related posts. So if you have any post that relates to this one here, it shows here on the bottom. And then all the way down here, we also have our comment area, and look at that. When I click on it, and then I can just start typing like that, and it is really, really easy to use. We have our buttons here that are also very, very consistent across the whole website. We also have our search results page and our 404 page. In fact, let me just show you quickly where all these designs are. So I'm going to come over here to Divi Theme Builder. So all these are designed for you ahead of time. You don't have to go in and start designing all this. So again, this saves you so much time when it comes to designing websites from scratch. All you need to do with this design is just to go in, change your colors on the footer, change your colors and your actual fonts themselves, and pretty much you are good to go. So this is going to save you so much time. It's unbelievable. And that is why SiteCrafter framework for designing websites is amazing. Now, there are obviously other features that I haven't covered here, but what I've just shown you are the main features or the main reasons why you may want to use the SiteCrafter framework. Finally, it is important, and this is being part of a community of designers. Now, if you purchase SiteCrafter, you also automatically go into our SiteCrafter community. Now, I have Divi University here as my main portal for anyone that enjoys designing websites using Divi. And as you can see here, this is a growing community. It has a ton of members. I mean, you can see here we have quite a lot of members who have joined. Okay. And we also have a leaderboard here, and as you can see, it's very, very active. Okay. Now, when I go to my spaces, again, you can see over here in our Divi community, we have 13,000 members. Over here, the SiteCrafters, we have 224. So the SiteCrafters here, this is a specific group for anyone that has purchased the SiteCrafter framework. So this is where you're going to get support, you're going to get all the updates, and there are some tutorials that I'll be doing which will not find their way to YouTube, and these are all going to be for my members. Now, joining Divi University is absolutely free. All you have to do is to head over to Divi University like that, and oops, why is the button like that? It's embarrassing. Anyway, if you click join now for free, you can just click here on join now, and all you need to do is to enter your name, email address, and then you can just say I want to be a member, and pretty much we are good to go. You can just be part of a community. It's absolutely free to Divi community, so go ahead and sign up. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Let me know what you think about the SiteCrafter framework in the comments box below. I'm curious to see if some of you that have purchased it are using it. Let us know how it's been working for you in the comments box below. Now, finally, this SiteCraft framework is also over here on sitecrafter.com, and the pricing is $167. Now, it's 40% off. Now, I've kept this offer as it is right now. You can use this on unlimited websites, by the way. If you want to pay yearly, it's $58. Now, the reason why I've kept this 40% offer on is because there's still a few things I need to add on, like the course that comes with it and a few touch-ups here and there as Divi is developing. So once Divi 5 is out of the alpha stage and everything is stable, now my price is going to go back to $277 and $97 per year, because there's going to be a lot of support for this framework, and also it's going to come with a lot of courses and so on. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again in the next one. Take care.